In any case, what I hope to talk about was actually not so much the kind of the population genetics or epidemiology of ideas that are certainly one component of transmission of religious belief, but the content of religious belief, and in particular, I wanted to expand on the key idea in Richard's first presentation, which is that religious belief is not likely to be a biological adaptation itself, but rather a byproduct of cognitive faculties that evolved for other purposes. Religion is a complex set of behaviors and beliefs, and any theory trying to explain it in psychological terms will also be complex, precisely because it is not one thing. It's very unlikely that we have a God module in the brain, but rather there are a number of different ways of thinking and feeling that are brought together in somewhat different combinations in different cultures to comprise what we think of as religion. In my commentary on Wednesday, I made mention of one key component of religious belief that recurs in many cultures, and that is the belief in disembodied spirits, souls, ghosts, gods, saints, and so on, which, following a number of cognitive psychologists, I suggest is made possible by a fundamental human cognitive ability, one that psychologists call theory of mind or intuitive psychology. Dan Dennett called it the intentional stance. That is the ability to impute invisible minds to other people as a way of explaining their behavior, from which it's a short step to conceptualize minds that are detached from their bodies, namely souls and spirits. This is part of a more general phenomenon in religious belief that Pascal Boyer and Scott Atran call attention to, that most religious concepts consist of mundane concepts, ones that we traffic in everyday thought and discourse, but with one emendation, one property struck out, but the rest of the concept being inherited intact. In the case of a soul, it is our intuitive psychology that is engaged. We think of souls without being taught as human agents who can be bribed or persuaded, who need evidence to gain knowledge. The one thing that's crossed out is that ordinarily minds are attached to bodies. You just cross that bit out and you get souls, gods, and spirits. But all the rest of our intuitive psychology comes along for the ride. You don't have to tell people that a saint, for example, will be pleased if you give it something that it wants. That's something that people supply for free. And indeed, even if religious dogma does not explicitly mention a typical trait of a human mind, experiments have shown that the followers will fill it in themselves. An amulet, an idol, an object with supernatural powers will obey our intuitive physics, but with one quality crossed out and replaced by another, namely that it can cure a disease or can listen to one's speech. Now, people who believe in these special objects don't consider them to be part of their mundane experience. It's not as if people holding religious beliefs are literally deluded and think that the laws of the universe really are abrogated routinely, which is why there is always a sense of specialness and mystery and awe and wonder surrounding religious concepts. According to Scott Atran, whose book, In Gods We Trust, is a very interesting psychological analysis of religion, an ability to entertain counterintuitive beliefs is only one of 4 recurring components of religious belief and practice. Another one is that once one is told of these special, awe-inspiring entities, one tends to link them to existential problems that all human minds can face, such as the certainty that we're going to die, the high probability that various tragedies will befall us, such as illness, defeat, betrayal, and that it's a natural connection for people with very strong desires to have some control over these existential issues in their life, to appeal to this mysterious world of wonders, the disembodied souls, objects with magical powers. A third component is that because these counterintuitive concepts with the promise of solving or addressing existential dilemmas can't be falsified or verified, the only way to reinforce a belief in them is by a shared avowal in ceremonial circumstances of those beliefs. You can't do an experiment, but you can get together with other people and affirm one's faith in it simultaneously. And this third component of religion is ceremony, ways in which a group of people share a common belief and also reinforce their solidarity as a group through a number of psychological techniques. Now, Richard alluded to explanations of religion in terms of group selection, namely that groups with particular beliefs might be more formidable in battle than those without such beliefs, and therefore like-minded groups will proliferate at the expense of ones without religious belief. Richard was skeptical of that kind of explanation, as am I, as is Atran, who points out that group solidarity in fact benefits individuals to the extent that defectors, cheaters, can be controlled, that a group of people acting together, and this for reasons explained very lucidly in Richard's book, The Selfish Gene, can enjoy a number of benefits of cooperation, but are always vulnerable to those who would seek to enjoy the advantages of group membership without contributing to the common welfare. And policing possible cheaters and defectors is the fundamental problem in group living among non-relatives. So religious systems often exploit our emotional and cognitive faculties in order to weed out defectors, to make sure that people who are enjoying the group benefits pay their cost. And one of them is public costly commitment. That is, to become a respected member of the group, you have to prove that you're willing to contribute to the to the commonweal by publicly making some sacrifice that is genuinely costly and genuinely hard to fake. Sacrificing your best animals, your best crops, as in the story of the binding of Isaac, your son. In real Jewish tradition, you hand over your newborn son and say, go ahead, cut off a piece of his genitals. Only people who are pretty serious about being a member of the group will be willing to make such a sacrifice. And those kinds of blood sacrifices are a ubiquitous element of a religion as a commitment device. Finally, the ceremonial aspect uses a number of perceptual and cognitive quirks of humans in order to help submerge the interests of the individual to the group. And indeed, the use of these various tricks, again reinforcing one of Richard's arguments, is not evidence that humans naturally submerge themselves to the group for the benefit of the group, but on the contrary, the fact that so many different tricks and techniques must be used to get people to commit to the group suggests that it actually runs against our psychology, and which is why all of these methods of subterfuge must be called in. A number of them actually were summarized by an anthropologist named Alan Fisk, who points out that the kind of solidarity that is felt within a family, for reasons that Richard explained in The Selfish Gene, basically that family members share genes, so genes that foster kin solidarity will be helping copies of themselves when they cause a person to aid a blood relative. That non-relatives aspire to this degree of solidarity. It does not, in fact, come naturally to non-relatives, but they have to be manipulated into treating other members of the sect or clan or tribe as if they were members of the family. And one of the techniques is to appeal to people's kinship psychology by likening the group to a kind of family. And indeed, terms like brethren, brotherhood, our father are common in religious entreaties. And the idea is to create the illusion that a group of people who are not, in fact, related by descent